In the Board of Zoning, Planning, and Appeals, I'd like to hereby call this meeting to order on this Thursday, February the 8th, 2024. Time is 7 p.m. We have a quorum of members, and at this time, I'd like to ask our Director of Community Development, Mr. Brian Simmons, to please call the roll.
Kessler? Here. Graziano?
Here.
Jasper? Randell?
Here.
Kretschmer?
Here.
O'Laughlin?
Here.
Williams?
Here.
Corey?
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we invite you to rise with us for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks very much, everyone. So I'll begin with our petitioner. I won't pretend to know if you've been through this process here before or not, but I'll try to step you through the way we do our work here. What we'll do is we'll ask Mr. Simmons to give us an overview of the application, and upon conclusions, members of the ZPA may have some questions for Mr. Simmons. Once we conclude that portion of the meeting, we'll ask you to step forward and offer any additional insights or color to your application that you think is appropriate. Members of the ZPA may have some questions for yourselves. Once we close that portion, we open it up to the public. We have a few people here, I think, that are from the public. What we would humbly ask you to do is that when you step forward, state your name and address for the record. If you're unaware, this meeting does get recorded. It gets placed on YouTube, so that's why we ask you to identify yourself so that people that are not here will know who you are in the future. Once we close that portion of the meeting, members of the ZPA may have some questions amongst themselves. We'll take a vote, and then that vote gets delivered back to our elected officials. That becomes a village board final vote at their level. So that's our process. So before I step through an administrative issue, do you have any questions about our process? No? Good. All right. So ladies and gentlemen of the ZPA, in your packet and also electronically, you would have received the meeting minutes from our last meeting, which, believe it or not, was October the 12th, 2023. And unless anyone has any objection, I'm just going to ask for general consent via voice vote for the meeting minutes of ZPA 08001 dated October the 12th, 2023. Those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. At this time, I will call Village Case 23 ZPA 12001. Petitioner is Alden Foundation. Owner is 400 Haber Road, LLC. Location is 340 South Carey Algonquin Road. And this is related to the parcel 19144290003, and there are three requests. One is for an amendment for the comprehensive plan, approval of a zoning map amendment, and then also approval of a plan development containing zoning departures from the Unified Development Ordinance. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Simmons for an overview.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As mentioned, the request this evening from the Alden Foundation is for a proposed development on the property at 340 South Carey Algonquin Road. It's for a senior housing development. Little background on the property. It's currently zoned B3, the Fringe Business District. They're requesting three approvals this evening. One for a comprehensive plan amendment to change the zoning or the comprehensive future land use plan map for the property from commercial to multifamily. A zoning map amendment to rezone the property also from the B3 district to the R3 district, and then a plan development approval for the proposed project, 45-unit, three-story structure. The history of the property was annexed into the village in 1974 as part of the Cary Oaks campus. It originally was zoned B5 office research, and you can kind of see the status of the property in the lower right-hand corner there when it was annexed into the village in the 70s. In 1997, the property was rezoned to the B4 Neighborhood Convenience District. That was a village-initiated rezoning project as part of a comprehensive update to our zoning regulations. And then again, the property was rezoned in 2004 to its current zoning classification, the B3 Fringe Business District. The property has never been developed within the village. As you can see by the aerial from 1973, the was now the former school building, another apartment complex, was existing at the time. It's gone through renovation, but there was a driveway that went through this property, but there was never a formal development that occurred on this site. The Petitioner is requesting this evening approval of a planned development that would govern the development of the property. As the board recalls, within the Unified Development Ordinance, within Chapter 7, there's specific regulations for planned developments that are intended to encourage more adaptive flexibility with plans and development within the community that provide more efficient use of land and preserve natural features and open space depending on the size and scope of a project. Under our code, any properties which are zoned or developed for non-single-family residential, which are over 2 acres in size, or Zone B1 or B3R, are required to get approval as a PUD. With the site being over the 2-acre threshold, it requires that zoning approval requested this evening. Little overview of the project. The petitioner is proposing to construct a 45-unit senior housing development. Would consist of one 3-story structure with 3 levels of apartments within the building. Access to the site would be provided from both Harper Avenue and Cary Algonquin Road, and parking and related facilities would be provided around the facility as well. That would comply with code's requirement of 1 space per unit for a total of 45 parking spaces on the site. As mentioned, the property is currently designated as commercial within the village's comprehensive plan. That was looking at future potential development of the site. As part of the proposal, the petitioner is seeking to change that classification to multifamily, which would be consistent with development that has occurred directly to the west of the site. And within the comprehensive plan, there is guidance as far as needing to expand housing opportunities for individuals within the village, specifically looking at young professionals, small families, and seniors as well. There were no specific locations considered within the comprehensive plan, but provided guidance that preference should be given to areas that are proximity to pedestrian access and community facilities and amenities surrounding those areas. So the subject's property is near existing multifamily development and is adjacent to the Hoffman Park and other public facilities within the area. Additionally, the petitioner is requesting a map amendment, again, to rezone the property from its current B3 designation to the R3 multifamily residential district, which would allow for the multifamily residential use. The proposed zoning, again, is consistent with properties that are located directly to the west for other apartment and townhome developments that are in that area and also throughout the village as well, but specifically consistent with the development that has occurred directly to the west of the property. Some details regarding the proposed development. There are 2 departures that are requested as part of the PUD request. One is for the proposed density for the project. As evidenced on the slide, the maximum density for the R3 district is 9 units per acre. The proposed project is seeking a density of 16 units per acre. As you can see in the table in the upper right-hand corner of the slide, the proposed density would be consistent with other apartment projects that recently have been approved within the village, including 2 other senior housing projects in the Cary Senior Living and the Three Oaks Assisted Living Facility. The proposed departures in keeping with current development trends within the community. Additionally, the petitioner is seeking a departure for the proposed building height for the building. Under the R3 district, the maximum height that can be permitted by right is 30 feet. However, they're seeking a proposed height of 40 feet as measured to the midpoint of the roof. Under the R3 district, there is a flexibility in the design so that if a building does exceed that 30 feet in height, the building setbacks for that building would be modified based off how much exceeding a structure may of that 30-foot height requirement. So for every foot that a building exceeds that 30 feet, it would require an additional 2-foot requirement on the building setback. In the lower right-hand table in the slide, you can see that requirement would increase the setbacks along the front and exterior side yards from 30 feet to 50 feet, the rear yard from 40 feet to 60 feet, and the interior side yard from 15 to 35 feet. And the proposed structure will comply with all those requirements, as you can see there. So the departures are highlighted as far as the density from the 9 units per acre to the 16, and the height from 30 to 40. But the project otherwise would comply with the other bulk requirements for lot coverage and parking spaces. This slide shows the proposed elevations for the building. The petitioner can provide some additional detail in their presentation on the architectural quality of the structure. However, they're utilizing a peaked roof based off direction they previously received from the village board, and their building will utilize various durable materials on the face of the building with multiple annulations in the facade so that there's more play with light and shadow across the facade, not a linear blank surface. This slide shows the proposed floor plans for the first floor. Again, a mix of one bedroom and 2 bedroom units throughout the building. I believe the mixture is 38 1 bedroom units are proposed and 7 2 bedroom units will be proposed in the building. But there will be various community rooms for residents as well within the structure to utilize. And the second and third levels here are shown would be consistent across the building as well. This shows the proposed landscape plan. There would be some landscaping provided around the site. Obviously, there's some existing vegetation that's on the property which would need to be removed to accommodate the proposed development. However, the petitioner will be proposing some additional landscaping around the proposed facility to screen it from its adjacent land uses that would be compliant with code. And one of the conditions is for some minor modifications to the plan in the southwest corner of the site to provide some additional screening from the adjacent duplexes, which will eventually be constructed in that portion of the property. And this plan here shows the proposed utilities connections that would be made from the property that would connect into existing water and sewer in the area, and also provide stormwater retention on the property. As with any request, there are various standards that need to be met within the Unified Development Ordinance. This slide summarizes the required map amendment standards as far as the amendment not being detrimental to the orderly development of the village, promotes public interest and not solely the interest of the applicant, is consistent with existing uses of property within the general area of the property in question, and the trend of development in the general area supports the request, to summarize a few. Additionally, for plan development, there are various standards within the Unified Developments to support a plan development, specifically looking at the comprehensive plan, conformity with the general planning policies within the plan, the impact on the property in the area, proposed adequate provisions for ingress and egress to the site, and adequate buffering from adjacent uses, again, to summarize a few of them. Additionally, for the proposed modification standards for the 2 departures that are proposed, they would need to be in keeping with an overall integrated design, location of higher buildings on the site, things along those lines would be things that the board can consider as part of a request for review for a plan development. Based on staff's review and the information provided for you this evening, should the ZPA determine that the various standards have been met, as recommended that the ZPA recommend approval of the motion as presented before you this evening, which would include 1, an approval of an amendment to the comprehensive plan future land use map from commercial to multifamily. 2 would be the approval of a map amendment to rezone the subject property from B3 fringe business to the R3 multifamily residential district. And then finally, 3, approval of the Cary Horizon plan development located at 340 South Cary Algonquin Road, subject to the revised conditions that were provided for you this evening on the dais. So there will include 9 conditions that post the staff report that went out last week. We've had additional conversations with the petitioner. They had requested some modifications to a couple of the conditions be provided, and that's reflected in the information for you. I'd be happy to answer the questions the board may have, and the petitioner's here to provide additional testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Well done. Ladies or gentlemen, questions for Mr. Simmons? Okay, I'll take a kick at the can, Mr. Simmons. So I'm aware the petitioner obviously went forward to the village board and had a PUD discussion. There was an open house. I don't know if you personally attended the open house?
I did not. The petitioner can provide more information as far as the feedback they received at that hearing, or that meeting.
Yeah, my question, Mr. Simmons, was going to be, did you receive any feedback?
Not specifically, no, on this project.
Okay. And along with feedback, I know there's a number of people that were noticed in the application. Did you receive any feedback from the people that were noticed in the application?
No, we did not.
Okay, thank you very much. And then finally, did the fire department review some of the plans and give any feedback at all?
Yes, the fire department did review the plans, did provide some preliminary feedback, and actually, condition number 6 is based off their review as far as the location of fire hydrants on the site. So they were generally in favor of the project as proposed, but reserve final locations for certain facilities on the site to the building commission.
Thank you very much, Mr. Simmons. So we'll turn it over to the petitioner now, to the Alden Group, and I'm not sure if each of you want to speak or one individually, but again, just to refresh, if you wouldn't mind stating your name and address for the record, and welcome.
Good evening, board members. My name is Stephen Stivers. I'm the executive director of the Alden Foundation. I live at 18786 West Glenhurst Drive in Lake Villa.
Michael Bailey, president of Alden Design Group, 910 North Pecos Lane, Mount Prospect, Illinois.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for having us tonight. We really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you a little bit more about who the Alden Foundation is and our proposed development to come and join the community here in Cary. The Alden Foundation is a nonprofit developer of affordable housing for seniors. We've been working in the Chicagoland suburbs for the last 30 years. Our mission is really to make sure that seniors in their local communities have safe and affordable housing that they can call home for the long term. And so we try to partner with villages to bring that where there is a need. Over the course of that nearly 30-year history, we have developed 14 communities in the Chicago suburbs. We have about 1,000 units of, across our communities. Those units are for seniors who are 62 and above, who are of different fixed income levels. One of the things that we're really proud of here at the Alden Foundation is being entirely focused on seniors. So all of our facilities are seniors, and over time, over those 30 years, we've really asked our residents, what is it that you want to see in the place that you call home? And we continue to evolve our communities to reflect that. We also have a vertically integrated model, so we can make sure that the experience of our residents is consistent from the moment we look at a site all the way through its running. So we have Alden Bennett Construction, which is our general contractor. We have Alden Realty Services, who handles our property management. And we have ADG Design, which is the architecture and design firm. So we can truly control the entire experience of what we are developing from ground up. On the video, you'll see some pictures of one of our developments. This is our new Lenox Horizon property. We chose to highlight this because this community is built right alongside a neighborhood as well. And so we really try to make sure that our communities blend in with the community that they're going into, and making sure that if they are near single family homes, townhomes, et cetera, that they blend with the area. So who do we actually serve at the Alden Foundation? Who resides in our communities? So typically, the average kind of resident for us is about 75 to 77 years old. They have an annual income of about $27,000. 80% of our residents are women. 90% of them are single occupancy. Typically about 80 to 90% of the people who end up moving into a building are from that local community, but just looking for an affordable place to continue the next chapter of their lives. And the average stay at our community is 5 years. Every single one of our communities is at 100% occupancy. The average wait list for a community right now is between 75 and 150 people. So one of the things that we pride ourselves on is what we do. So we don't view it just about coming in and building affordable housing, but trying to be a true partner. So what does that mean? It means that none of our communities are going to look or feel the same. They shouldn't. They should be a part of that local community. That's who's going to be living there. We are a never sell affordable housing developer, so we are not going to make it affordable for a short period of time, then sell it later on down the road. We have never sold a facility. We plan on being in Cary for the long haul, and so we want to make sure that we're soliciting the board's feedback, soliciting the village board's feedback, soliciting residents' feedback, and incorporating that feedback into our design. We also make sure that while this is independent living, so there are no care elements, no services, et cetera, we still know who we serve. And so for our seniors, creating engaging communities is really important. So we partner with local organizations that also serve seniors to be able to provide those, activities at our facility. Our communities, as you saw from the floor plan, have an extensive amount of community space for what is considered independent living. So this facility would have a large community room. It would have a dedicated quiet space for a library, for residents to have book clubs. It'll have a game room with puzzle tables and billiards tables. And so it'll have exercise rooms to focus on health and wellness. All of this free and available to those living at this independent and affordable community. And these are some pictures of those amenities in one of our communities as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about this side?
The building itself will be 3 stories, as was mentioned earlier. It is a wood frame, entirely built out of wood, fully sprinklered NFPA 13, so it's a commercial sprinkler system. Every space is fully sprinklered. The building is built with the highest of energy standards. We have Green Enterprise Communities, ComEd Multifamily Standard, EPA Indoor Air Plus, Energy Star Multifamily, DOE Zero Energy Ready Home. It's all electric. It pushes every boundary. We have many tests that we have to pass. So it's a very energy efficient building. In terms of layout, we have community space outside with patios. We have, in a small long site, we have a small walking area with a bird feeder, but we have sidewalks that continue around the property for people to at least be able to walk on the property. Landscaping, as you saw from the pictures from the Lennox, we take pride in our buildings. They are landscaped to the best of what we can possibly put in. Irrigation systems to keep grass growing, maintenance to maintain the lawns, the irrigations, the beds, snow plowing, and all of that. So if you have any questions, the exterior of the building is a wood frame with masonry veneer. So it'll be a brick, as you saw in the picture, and then cement board siding for the upper story and a half, 2 stories.
This building will be for senior 62 plus of varying income. So these units, eligibility requirement, if it was constructed today, would be someone making between $23,000 and $46,000 a year in order to be eligible. One thing that's important to note is that is based on your annual income. So it is not based on net worth. It is just based on what you report as annual income each year. And then those rents would be proportional to your income level. So to give you an idea, if it was to be open today, a 1-bedroom apartment would range from $620 to $1,100, and the 2 bedrooms would range from $750 to $1,400, depending on your level of income.
Well, thank you, Mr. Stivers, and thank you, Mr. Bailey. I think the project is quite nice. But before we let you go, let me just see if members of the ZPA have some questions for yourselves. Go ahead.
Are you going to have generators? Because my experience with another building is I thought they were going to have generators. They do not. And people with oxygen, when the power went out a few times, they were just kind of stuck.
So we will have a generator, and that will pick up essential systems as emergency lighting, heat pumps for the domestic water service. We will provide backup power to community spaces for cooling and heating, but the actual individual units themselves do not receive generator. The size of the generator to provide outlets for everyone's is very
So if
expensive.
someone had an issue, they could go down to the community room?
Yes, we do provide areas that, yes, that are on emergency generator.
Okay. And then you talked about the different divisions at Alden. Will you be doing the management of the building?
So the way it works is that Alden Realty Services will handle the property manager. So we have a dedicated property manager for every single one of our communities. And so there will be a dedicated property manager for this site as well as a part-time maintenance manager.
Dedicated, meaning they will be in the office during office hours?
Correct. So dedicated, meaning that they are in the office during office hours, and typically, that's a Monday through Friday job. And then the maintenance person is available by emergency phone call, et cetera, as well as they're part-time during the week and on the weekends.
I also noticed on the floor plan that there's only trash on one side of the building. So it means this poor person over here has got to walk the length of the building. Did you consider putting the trash by the elevators?
We have the trash, there's a trash room on each individual floor,
Yeah?
which has a trash chute that leads down to a central collecting
Right.
agent area on the first floor. Trash chutes are expensive, and I'm not trying to minimize, but walking, we typically put one trash chute in all of our buildings regardless of the size.
'Cause that's been a very, very big issue at the other building, because there are people that can't make it all the way down there. So what they do is they dump their garbage in the community room or someplace else. I don't know if it's worth, just thought I would mention it. Because it's hard for the people on one side of the building to walk that entire length to get to the trash.
Very understandable. Having it at the one end, the maintenance person that comes and collects the garbage and takes it out to the trash doesn't have to wheel a can or cart through the facility.
Okay. It's caused a lot of issues, and some of the trash is not very pleasant, as you can imagine, in a senior building. Did you consider doing 4 stories?
I will say, we have not, based on the model of units versus square footage and what the actual program is, which is a little bit more into the development side of it, of why you select how many units that you have a development for.
Okay, because we need places for our seniors. And so 45 is nice, but boy, having 60 would be great.
We're on the same page.
We are 100% on the same page. Unfortunately, so the way that this project is financed in part is through the Illinois State Low-Income Housing Tax Credit and so a portion of the financing comes through that program. We also finance this through other layers of funding. So we'll have a first mortgage on the property. We will have home funds on this. We'll have a common energy grant. We'll have federal green grants on it. But the way that the limitations are within the state program kind of limits how many units
Okay.
you can develop. And so we are building as many units as we could reasonably build, given the program.
Okay. Now, with all those funding sources, do you have to do 10% Section 8?
So there will be a portion, not Section 8. So
Okay.
we have to do a portion of the property as referrals from the state referral network. So there are several of the units that will be dedicated to the state referral network system, which that is a program that is specifically targeted to people who are making under that $23,000 a year level. And so we would get our referrals instead of our own self-managed wait lists. Those referrals have to come through those, but it is a small percentage of the total units.
Okay. And are they from the community, or are those people that are being referred from the community, or are they from outside areas?
Yeah, so they typically try to prioritize always it being local first, so they look local, county, and then just expand out, but they try to start with that.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I have questions about parking. I know it says 45 spaces. What is the chance that all of those are going to be taken? And additional parking for visitors, family members, caretakers that might go into that facility?
Yeah, so great question. So we actually looked and did a study across all of our communities and find that on average in a one-to-one environment, that our utilization is about 70% at any point in time across all of our properties. And so that 30 extra percent allows for that point in time based change, whether families visiting or other, friends are visiting, et cetera. And so we haven't seen an issue in any of our communities where we've built one-to-one, where we've had parking going beyond the scope of the property. We know that obviously on this site there isn't, really space for that. And so that's why we felt so comfortable is after doing that analysis to say, okay, 30% of these typically are not filled. Not all of our residents drive. And so, having that one-to-one still leaves us several spaces.
I've got a question.
Please.
Kind of tack on with the parking. So you're going to 45, that's the minimum that you need, so that's what you have. But when I was looking through the plans, there are discrepancies between a couple of plans. I was to make sure we're voting on the correct one. If you look on A1 and on C4, the northeast part of the building, the handicaps are laid out differently. And then on the slide that we were just looking at, they're laid out differently on there as well. So there's like 3 different. It's small, but we're voting on it, and so I want to make sure we're voting on the right thing.
Brian, if you could please go back to the image that you had up there of the site plan.
So this one, you've got two at the front door, and then if you go north, northwest of the building, there's 2 there, but that's not on our plans. And then
So the
I just want to make sure we're voting on the, when we're done, when you
Good
go back to
catch.
it, you have the right layout that you're looking at.
Because here we got 2 on the west side and
If
4
you-
in the south.
And they're all sharing a space in the middle. If you go and see.
the sheet that should be correct is the 4 in the, which would be the east side of the building, the Carrie Algonquin Road.
Mhm.
And if there was I can already tell this isn't the most.
Is that the A?
And there were iterations that changed, and we were
Yeah.
picking up comments from the fire department, and we were moving some things around, making grading work at the last minute, so that the preliminary engineering would actually be something that we could build.
Right.
And so I apologize if the site plan is slightly different.
well, 'cause
That is the correct site plan.
That's the correct one. So we're not voting, so C 4.0, the civil drawings show each space having their own, striped next to it. But here you're showing them, 2 are sharing.
This is the correct
This is
one.
the correct one.
Yes,
So,
my
okay.
apologies
I
for
just want,
any
I just want to make
confusions.
sure we're voting on the right thing. I don't want to vote and there's discrepancies in there.
Yeah, the site plan that's in petitioner's presentation here was for the previous iteration of it, so what you have in the packet should be more accurate.
On A1's,
Correct.
not civil.
See,
Because civil looks like it's 1 less parking space, which would then be below the minimum, so.
yeah, and that's something, so the minimum requirement's the 45, so we can verify that the final plan for the site has that 45?
Yeah, A1 has the 45.
Sure.
so.
Yep.
Okay, I just want to be.
No, good
No,
catch.
I
Well done.
appreciate the question, thank you, and again, I apologize for having the discrepancy.
I didn't think the shared areas were allowed. Thought each handicap space had to have its own.
They changed that law a couple years ago.
Oh, I haven't been working for a while.
Now you know, Mr. Graziano. Any-
Makes more sense to me, but, okay.
So on A1, you don't have to have that, I don't know, the 2 parking spaces where there's not, a shaded area in between, it's because it's on the other side.
They're sharing over
Correct.
there.
Yes,
They're
correct,
sharing.
they
Share
changed the law so that it's the striped services, 2 parking stalls. So instead of being 4 in the old days, a couple of years ago, right? It's forever ago. Instead of having space, stripe,
Yeah.
stripe, you can now have 2
Yeah.
spaces with a stripe in the middle.
Because that's what the civil shows, is space stripe.
Yeah, again, I apologize.
That's okay.
It was,
Mr. O'Loughlin?
So I have a couple questions, basically going into the environmental side of things. I read the phase 1 and everything seems fine there. Is the detention, I noticed that all the catch basins go into the 1 detention area, and is it enough size? I didn't see any calculations that would have told me that it's enough size for the entire.
Yes,
facility.
preliminarily, it is
Preliminary,
sized
okay.
correctly.
Okay. And then my other question is, did you consider putting in any electric vehicle chargers?
Actually, if you look on the plan, there is, in the northeast corner of the site, which is just to the right of the 4 handicap stalls, there is a
Oh,
dual
there's-
charging station.
I'm sorry, I missed it. Thank you.
And the state of Illinois now requires that 40% of all stalls in affordable senior housing have to be EV ready. So they're piped for it. You have to have the infrastructure, and the building has to be able to provide for up to 40% if it becomes necessary. But we put in 2 right off the bat.
So 2 off the bat, but it'll be piped, ready to roll if more happens.
Yes.
Gotcha, thank you.
Anything else, Mr. O'Loughlin?
Nope, that was it for me.
Anyone else?
I have one more question.
Go right.
Under the canopy, that's where people would be dropped off. Will the curb be shaved?
Yes, it's a fully, the entire building inside is all fully handicap accessible, so it will be depressed curbs. The canopy does not overhang that drive area, so if a truck pulls up, there's no risk of the truck hitting the canopy. So it's not a fully covered drop-off area, but the front entrance sidewalk from the building out to that drop-off area is covered by a canopy.
It wasn't so much the coverage, it's, our current building has a curb this high that they're having a hard time getting
No,
changed.
this goes right down to the pavement with a handicap accessible curb to roll up to the building.
Okay, anyone else?
No, I take back my question about the pond. I found the diagram. Just went right by it.
So, gentlemen, I have a couple of questions for you. Your presentation is very comprehensive. I think the buildings are beautiful. What I'm trying to understand is that a prospective resident at your facility, what's the mechanism to say that this one, this one, this one, this one goes, and no, 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 yes? What's your process for selecting?
Yeah, so the way that we select who lives in our community is a couple things. So one is that we will do marketing in advance of the opening. We'll target our marketing towards Cary and then obviously in the surrounding area. So we keep our marketing focused local because again, that's who we're really trying to serve with the project. What we have to do, there's a lot of fair housing laws that we have to follow, especially being part of a state program. And so it's on a first come, first served basis. Once that wait list opens, people contact us. We have to then do certifications for every single interested party to verify income, eligibility criteria, et cetera. And so we will do certifications. We will open our wait list about 4 months before our doors open because those state certifications are good for 4 months. And so we don't want to wait it and then have someone have to go through, no one wants to go through 2 rounds of being certified to go live in, a new home. And so that's the process. And then we literally just go from the top down. And as long as you're eligible for the available type of unit, then you get the unit. And then we go on a wait list. And then we work that same way going forward.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And then I'll ask the 2 questions that I asked Mr. Simmons. I know you did an open house, and that's greatly appreciated, but did you receive any comments from the community around your open house and pro and con?
Yeah, so we had a great open house, and I love that Cary has us do the open house before this meeting. We had 14 neighbors come out and talk to us over a 2-hour period. I would say that overall, the most common piece of feedback related to traffic at the corner of Harper and Cary Algonquin. We expressed obviously that unfortunately, traffic lights and things like that are outside the purview of us as a developer, but we also recognize 100% that it's a concern of the local neighborhood before our property goes in. It's going to be a bigger concern for them after our property goes in. And so we had a lot of conversations about that piece. There was some feedback around just questions to get educated about who are we serving, who's going to live here, what is this like, is it services, non-services? There was also questions pertaining to whether or not there was going to be an impediment from a visual perspective from the townhome owners on Harper. But as you can see from the drawing, we've put the detention area specifically in that front corner, so it will not impede viewpoints from there. So we've set the building further back for that reason. So those were some of the feedback that we received during the 2-hour session. But there was lots of great questions from the neighbors.
So thank you for that, Mr. Stivers. And my last one is that, as you know, in the packet, you're required to notify surrounding neighbors. Did you receive any feedback from those individuals, pro or con, regarding your application?
No formal feedback from anyone.
Thank you very much. All right, so unless we have other questions from our ZPA members, I'm going to thank you very much for your presentation. This is the portion of the meeting now we would open it up to the public. Thank you, gentlemen. And if anyone is here that would like to speak about the application, you're welcome to do so. If you just approach the podium and state your name and address for the record. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Kevin Murray. I live at 705 Harper, which is just to the west of that lot right there. So we went to the open house. It was very well done. These guys are pros, and we really appreciated that. A couple of things that I thought were brought up. Your points about parking, spot on. That's exactly the thing that we were concerned about. The other thing is the entry on the Cary Algonquin Road. If you've been, I'm sure you guys have been by there, but if you go by there, there's a hill there, right by the church. And I wouldn't want to be making a left turn out of there, ever. Okay, because that's going to be, that's just an accident waiting to happen. The only other things that I think are of note is, again, one-to-one parking. We have some concerns about that because if you look around, there is no place else for overflow. The streets, there's no parking on Harper down that way. And in our neighborhood, if you park in our alley, we're gonna tow you. And the rest of and the apartment complex is the same way. So those are the only things that I wanted to bring to your attention. I thought you did a great job picking up on the handicap spots, because I didn't even see that, so well done, sir. All right, thank you very much, ladies.
Thank
and
you very
gentlemen.
much for your comments. And thank you to our insightful ZPA members, so well done. Anyone else on the public comment? All right, hearing none, we'll close that portion of the meeting. And then amongst the ZPA members, I don't know if there's any other items that you want to review before I call the motion?
Just have one concern. This is a detention pond, not a retention pond, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Is there any concern for fencing around a detention pond, or any need for fencing?
So the detention pond would need to conform to McHenry County Stormwater Ordinance, which does not specifically require
Okay.
fencing, but certainly the design and capacity of that would comply with the regulations for that type of facility in the village.
Yeah.
Anything else, Mr. Graciano? All right, so unless we have other questions, the chair will entertain a motion to recommend to the Village Board of Trustees, 1, approval of an amendment to the comprehensive plan future land use map from commercial to multifamily. 2, approval of a map amendment to rezone the property from B3 fringe business to R3 multifamily residential district. And 3, approval of the Cary Horizon Plan development located at 340 South Cary Algonquin Road, subject to the revised conditions in the staff report.
So moved.
Thank you very much. Mr. Simmons, would you call the roll?
Graziano?
Yes.
Randall?
Yes.
Kretschmer?
Yes.
O'Laughlin?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Cassiter?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes. So, gentlemen, you have a favorable recommendation, and the next step in the process, as you probably know well, is just to stay in coordination with Mr. Simmons, and he can tell you when the next date will be, because as I mentioned when we opened, it is Village Board final, so they'll become the final decision maker on this project. But I think it's very well done. Welcome to the community. I think this is going to be a big win, so very well done. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, before we adjourn here, I just want to double check with Mr. Simmons if we have anything else coming down the pike.
Yes, likely we'll have at least one, if not two cases for the March ZPA hearing, and potentially one in April as well, coming down. So some activity taking place in the community as of late.
Very good.
Nice.
All right.
Did a break for the holidays.
Trying to make up for it?
Unless there's anything else, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Meeting adjourned.
Mr. So.
I so moved everything.
So moving.